Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to Vintage Mike Tales. Today's story is one of forbidden love, courage and survival, where passion collides with pain and hope rises out of abuse and heartbreak. Remember to treat your partner right and hold on to the love that defines you. Thank you for listening, and let's begin. Damian sat in his office, the view of Manhattan sprawling beneath him like a glittering empire he had conquered. 30 floors up. Glass windows framed the city as though it belonged to him, and in many ways it did. At 30 years old, Damian Hayes was one of the youngest and most successful businessmen in New York. His company was the kind of corporate beast journalists loved to praise and competitors hated to envy. Yet behind the polished surface, success tasted hollow. He swirled a glass of bourbon in his hand, the amber liquid catching the late afternoon sun. His assistant had long gone home, but Damian stayed behind, drowning not in deadlines but in silence. It was in quiet moments like these that the ghosts of his past crept back. He saw again the night his father packed a suitcase and walked out of their modest Ohio home. Damian had been only 8. He remembered his mother's trembling hands as she begged, "Don't do this, Richard. Please think of your son." And his father's cold reply, "I've thought enough. I can't live a lie anymore." The front door slammed shut, leaving Damian with the sound of his mother's muffled sobs. She never remarried. She worked 2 jobs, skipped meals to feed him, and carried the burden of raising a boy while hiding her own heartbreak. Damian built his empire for her, for the woman who never gave up on him. Yet even with all his wealth, he couldn't fill the void his father left. Love to Damian was complicated. He wanted it desperately but feared it was nothing more than a beautiful lie that eventually crumbled. That night an invitation sat unopened on his desk. The annual New Horizons charity gala. His company had sponsored the event, raising funds for shelters supporting abused women. Normally, he avoided such gatherings. They were full of fake smiles and forced handshakes. But something urged him to go. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers and laughter. Damian wore a tailored black tuxedo, his tie perfectly knotted, his presence commanding. People greeted him with admiration, some with envy. But, as usual, he drifted through the room as if he were a guest in someone else's life. And then he saw her, Patricia. She wasn't the most flamboyant woman in the room. She wasn't loud or eager for attention like the others. But there was something magnetic about her presence. She stood near the corner, talking softly with another guest. Her skin was radiant against the deep emerald green dress she wore, her curls pinned elegantly, yet with a softness that framed her face. She looked mature, composed, but her eyes told a different story. They weren't the eyes of a carefree woman. They carried shadows, the kind of quiet sorrow only those who had suffered learned to hide. Damian's gaze lingered too long. He forced himself to look away, then back again. Something about her tugged at him, as if fate had just drawn a thin, invisible line between their hearts. When the speeches ended and music filled the room, Damian found himself walking toward her. He hadn't planned it. His feet moved on their own. "Enjoying the gala?" he asked, his voice smooth but casual. Patricia turned to him. For a moment, her guarded expression softened. "I suppose. It's a good cause." Her voice was warm, rich, but restrained. She didn't gush over him like so many others did when they recognized his name. "You're Damian Hayes," she said matter-of-factly. He smiled faintly. "And you are—" "Patricia," she replied. Patricia Carter. The name settled into his chest like an echo he wanted to hear again. They spoke first about the charity, then about trivial things like music and books. But Damian found himself listening to her more than he usually did with anyone. She laughed softly at one of his remarks, and the sound struck him. It was beautiful but faint, as though laughter wasn't something she allowed herself often. At one point, as she reached for her glass, Damian noticed the faintest bruise near her wrist, half hidden by her sleeve. She quickly pulled her hand back. He didn't comment, but the sight lodged itself in his mind. Before the night ended, she excused herself politely. "It was nice meeting you, Mr. Hayes." "Damian," he corrected gently. "Just Damian." Her lips curved in a small smile. "Then good night, Damian." And just like that she walked away, leaving him staring after her in a room suddenly too bright and too loud. The car ride home was silent. Marcus, her husband, kept his eyes on the road, his jaw clenched. He hadn't liked her talking to Damian. He hadn't liked her laughing. When they entered their house, the mask fell. "You think I didn't see you?" Marcus's voice cut through the stillness, smiling at him like some little... "Marcus, please," Patricia whispered, setting her clutch on the table. It was just conversation. He grabbed her wrist, the same one Damian had noticed. "Don't play games with me. I know men like him. Rich, entitled, think they can take whatever they want." His grip tightened. "And you'll stay away from him. Do you hear me?" Patricia nodded quickly, her heart pounding. "Yes, I hear you." He released her with a shove, muttering curses as he stalked upstairs. When the house finally grew quiet, Patricia sank onto the sofa, pressing her trembling hands against her face. For years she had endured Marcus's temper. To the world they were a respectable couple. He was successful in his own right. She was the devoted wife. But behind closed doors it was a different story. She had learned to survive by making herself small, by swallowing her pain. But tonight something felt different. The way Damian looked at her, it wasn't with possession or judgment. It was as though he saw her. And for the first time in years she felt alive in that gaze. Patricia hated herself for even thinking about another man. She was married. Marriage meant loyalty, sacrifice. But as she sat there in the dim light, tears slipping down her cheeks, she admitted to herself something she could never say out loud. "I wish I could feel that way again. I wish I could feel safe, loved, free." Damian lay awake in his penthouse, staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. His mind replayed the gala, every detail of Patricia's face, the sadness in her eyes, the bruise on her wrist. He told himself to forget her. She was married. She was off limits. But something inside him rebelled. He had spent his life building walls to protect himself from disappointment, from betrayal. But Patricia had walked right past those defenses without even trying. He didn't just want her beauty. He wanted to know her pain, to take it from her, to give her the life she deserved. The irony wasn't lost on him. His father had been the man who tore apart another woman's marriage, and now here he was, lying awake because of a married woman. But deep down, Damian knew this wasn't lust. It wasn't the shallow desire he had felt before. This was something far more dangerous, far more consuming. And as the night stretched on, Damian realized the truth he couldn't deny. He had only just met her, but Patricia Carter was already under his skin. Patricia cried herself to sleep in a cold, loveless bed, wishing for freedom she didn't believe she could ever have. Across the city, Damian sat by his window, bourbon untouched, whispering to himself words he had never said about anyone before. She's different. She's worth everything. Fate had set their worlds on a collision course. Neither of them knew just how dangerous and beautiful that collision would become. The days after the gala were restless ones for Damian. He told himself to bury the memory of Patricia, to let her go as just another fleeting face in the endless stream of formal dinners and charity events. But her eyes haunted him, those deep, tired eyes that carried both resilience and sorrow. Every time he sat in a meeting, every time he signed another deal, she came back to him. He found himself wondering, was she okay? Did that bruise on her wrist heal? Was she safe in her own home? It was irrational. He barely knew her. But Damian was a man who trusted instinct, and something inside him refused to ignore what he'd seen. It happened a week later. Damian had agreed to visit a local women's shelter his company supported financially. Normally, his public relations team handled those appearances, but this time he insisted on going himself. When he arrived, the director of the shelter greeted him warmly, giving him a tour of the modest but safe facility. Children played in one corner, their laughter a bittersweet soundtrack in a place built from brokenness. And then he saw her. Patricia was there, helping organize donated clothes. She wore a simple blouse and jeans, her hair tied back, no glamour of the gala. Yet to Damian she had never looked more beautiful. She noticed him almost immediately. Her posture stiffened, her lips parting slightly in surprise. For a moment neither of them spoke. "Patricia," Damian said finally, his voice softer than he intended. "Mr. Hayes," she replied, her tone polite but guarded. "Damian," he corrected again, just as he had that night. Their eyes locked, and the air between them tightened, filled with unspoken words. The shelter director explained that Patricia was one of the volunteers. "She's been helping us for years," the woman said proudly. Damian looked back at Patricia, admiration in his gaze. She lowered her eyes as though trying to escape his attention. When the director left them momentarily, Damian seized the chance. "I didn't expect to see you here." Patricia hesitated, folding a shirt neatly before setting it down. "I volunteer sometimes. It helps keep perspective." Her voice faltered slightly and Damian caught it, the weight of words unspoken. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to help with the clothes. She gave a reluctant smile, a trace of amusement in her eyes. "I wouldn't have guessed you knew how to fold." "I'm a quick learner," he replied, his hands moving clumsily at first, making her laugh quietly. The sound warmed him. It was small, cautious, but real. When her shift ended, Damian offered to walk her to her car. Patricia hesitated, but finally agreed. They walked slowly, the late afternoon sun painting the streets in gold. "Why are you here, Damian?" she asked, her tone not accusing but curious. "Because I care about more than money," he answered honestly. "And because—" He paused, careful not to push too far. "Because I wanted to see you again." Her steps faltered and she looked at him, startled. "You shouldn't say that." "Why not? It's the truth." "Because I'm married," she whispered, as though the word itself were a chain around her neck. Damian nodded, his jaw tightening. "I know, and I'm not here to make your life harder." They walked in silence for a while before Patricia finally said, "You don't know me, Damian." "Not yet," he replied, "but I'd like to." At her car she hesitated again. Against her better judgment she heard herself say, "There's a coffee shop nearby. If you're not too busy." They sat across from each other at a quiet corner table. The coffee shop buzzed with background chatter, but to Damian, the world had narrowed to just the two of them. Patricia stirred her tea slowly, her hands trembling slightly. Damian noticed but didn't comment. "You seem different," she said softly. "Different how? Most men with your status walk into a room like they own it. But you—" She studied him, her eyes searching. "You look like you're still looking for something." Her observation struck deep. Damian leaned back, letting out a low breath. "Maybe I am." "And you think you'll find it in me?" she asked carefully, her tone somewhere between curiosity and fear. "I don't know," Damian admitted. "But I know that when I look at you, Patricia, I don't just see beauty. I see strength, I see pain you don't deserve, and I can't stop wanting to know you more." Her throat tightened. She looked down at her cup, fighting tears she refused to let fall in public. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why?" "Because it makes me want to believe them," she whispered. By the time they left the cafe, a summer storm had rolled in. Rain poured heavily, drenching the streets. Patricia gasped as the downpour hit them, laughing despite herself as they ran under the nearest awning. Damian's suit clung to him, droplets streaming down his hair, but he didn't care. Patricia's laughter filled the small space, brighter now, less restrained. He looked at her, truly looked, and the world seemed to fade away. For a heartbeat everything slowed, the patter of rain, the flickering streetlights, the sound of her breath mingling with his. Their eyes met. Damian stepped closer, his hand hovering near her cheek but not touching. "Patricia," he murmured, his voice rough with longing. Her lips parted and for a moment she didn't move away. The space between them narrowed until only inches remained. Then with a sharp inhale Patricia turned her head. "I can't," she whispered, her voice breaking. Damian's hand dropped to his side. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to—" "Yes, you did," she interrupted, her tone trembling. "And I wanted to let you, but I can't. I'm married." Her words were final, but her eyes betrayed her. They glistened with tears and unspoken yearning. Damian nodded slowly. "I understand." The rain fell harder around them, but the silence between them was heavier still. That night, Patricia came home soaked from the rain. Marcus noticed immediately. "Where were you?" he demanded. "Volunteering." "Then I got caught in the storm," she explained carefully, hanging her coat. Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Volunteering again?" "Yes." He stepped closer, his tone sharp. "Who were you with?" "No one," she lied quickly, her stomach twisting. Marcus stared at her for a long moment, before grabbing her chin roughly, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Don't ever lie to me, Patricia." "I'll know." Her pulse raced, but she nodded. "I'm not lying." He released her, muttering curses as he walked away. But Patricia knew. He was watching her more closely now. Any slip could cost her. Damian couldn't sleep that night. He paced his penthouse, the storm still raging outside. He kept seeing Patricia's face in the rain, the way she had almost let him kiss her. He hated himself for wanting her. He hated the irony, that he might become the kind of man his father was, the kind who destroyed marriages. But deep down he knew this was different. Patricia's marriage wasn't built on love. It was built on control, on fear. She wasn't living, she was surviving. And Damian couldn't stop thinking, what if I could give her more? What if I could give her freedom? He sat by the window, rain streaking the glass, and whispered into the night. I think I'm in love with her. In her darkened bedroom, Patricia lay beside Marcus's sleeping form. The storm outside echoed the turmoil inside her. She pressed her hand to her lips, remembering how close Damian had been, how safe she had felt in his presence. Tears spilled silently. She hated herself for it, hated the part of her that longed for Damian's touch, but she couldn't deny the truth anymore. He made her feel something she thought was lost forever. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to whisper into the silence, God help me. I think I'm falling for him. Two souls bound by pain and longing stood on the edge of something dangerous. Patricia's heart battled between duty and desire. Damian's heart burned with love he could no longer ignore. Neither of them realized just how high the stakes would become, nor how deep the forbidden sparks would ignite. Patricia woke to the sound of Marcus slamming a door downstairs. Her chest tightened instantly, fear settling into her bones the way it always did when he was angry. It didn't matter if she had done something wrong or not. Marcus could turn anything into a crime. She sat up in bed, wrapping her robe around her body, listening to his heavy footsteps. When he stormed into the room, his eyes were bloodshot. Where were you yesterday afternoon? I told you, Patricia answered softly, keeping her voice calm, careful. I was at the shelter. The shelter, again. He sneered, pacing the floor. Don't think I don't know what's going on. You think I don't see the way you've been. Smiling more. You've got a glow about you. And it sure as hell isn't because of me. Her stomach dropped. Marcus stopped pacing, his face hardening. Who is he? There's no one, Marcus. His hand lashed out before she could finish. The slap stung, her head whipping to the side. She held back the cry that wanted to escape. She had learned long ago that tears only made him angrier. He leaned close, his voice low and venomous. You're mine. Don't forget it. When he left, Patricia sank to the floor, clutching her cheek. She had endured years of this, but something inside her was shifting. Damian's words echoed in her mind. You don't deserve this pain. For the first time, she began to believe it. Meanwhile, Damian was pacing his office, unable to focus on the endless stack of documents. His mind was elsewhere, always with Patricia. He hadn't heard from her since the storm. The memory of their almost kiss consumed him. Every instinct in him wanted to see her, to protect her, to take her away from the life that was breaking her spirit. Finally, he grabbed his phone and called the shelter. This is Damian Hayes. Is Patricia Carter volunteering today? The voice on the other end confirmed she was. Relief flooded him. Within the hour, Damian's car pulled up outside the modest building. He told himself he was only there to check on the shelter, but he knew better. He was there for her. Inside, he found Patricia folding blankets in the storage room. She froze when she saw him, her lips parting in surprise. Damian, she whispered. He shut the door quietly behind him. I had to see you. Why? Her voice trembled. Because I can't stop worrying about you, he admitted, his eyes searching hers. Patricia looked away, clutching a blanket to her chest. You shouldn't be here. If Marcus ever found out... Patricia, Damian interrupted gently, stepping closer. What is he doing to you? Her breath hitched. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint noises of the shelter outside. Finally, she whispered, He hurts me. Damian's chest tightened painfully. I knew it, he said under his breath. Damn it, Patricia. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. I don't know how much longer I can live like this. Without thinking, Damian reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Instead, she gripped him tightly, as if his touch was the only thing anchoring her. Then don't, he said firmly. You don't have to live like this. I'll help you. I'll protect you. Her tears spilled over. You don't know what you're saying, Marcus. He'll never let me go. He'll ruin me if I try. Then let him try, Damian said fiercely. He'll have to go through me first. Patricia looked at him, her heart pounding. And in his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in a long time, hope. The weight of the moment pressed down on them. Patricia's tears slid down her cheeks as Damian reached up and gently brushed one away with his thumb. Patricia, he whispered, his voice breaking. I love you. Her breath caught. She should have pushed him away. She should have told him it was wrong. But instead, she let the words sink into her soul, filling the empty spaces Marcus had carved out of her. And then, before she could stop herself, she leaned into him. Their lips met in a kiss that was both desperate and tender, a collision of years of loneliness and longing. Damian held her gently, as though afraid she might break, but Patricia clung to him, pouring all her pain and need into the kiss. When they finally pulled apart, she was trembling. I shouldn't have done that, she whispered, her voice shaky. Then neither should I, Damian replied, his forehead resting against hers. But I don't regret it. Patricia closed her eyes, tears slipping out. Neither do I. From that moment, their lives shifted. They began to meet in secret. At first, it was innocent. Long walks in the park, quiet conversations over coffee. But soon the dam broke. They couldn't fight the pull any longer. In Damian's penthouse, Patricia found a world she had never known. He touched her with reverence, with patience, with love. He made her feel beautiful, cherished, alive. Each stolen night was a breath of freedom. Each whispered, I love you, a reminder that she deserved more than the cage Marcus had built around her. But with every kiss, every touch, guilt gnawed at her. She was still Marcus's wife, bound by vows she once thought sacred. And yet when she lay in Damian's arms, she knew what she felt for him was real in a way her marriage had never been. Damian wrestled with his own demons. Every time Patricia left his bed to return to Marcus, it felt like betrayal, not from her but from himself. He remembered his father's affair, the devastation it caused his mother. He swore he would never be that man. And yet here he was, falling deeply, irrevocably in love with another man's wife. But he justified it with one truth. Marcus didn't love Patricia. He controlled her, hurt her, broke her. What Damian gave her wasn't theft, it was salvation. Still, the guilt lingered. One night, as Patricia slept beside him, Damian whispered into the darkness, I'm not him. I'll never be like my father. I love her too much. It couldn't last. Secrets rarely do. Marcus grew more suspicious with each passing day. Patricia's absences, her softened smile, the faint traces of perfume that weren't his. He noticed everything. One evening, he followed her. Patricia thought she was careful, but Marcus knew his wife. He trailed her car through the city until she pulled into the underground parking garage of Damian, Hayes's building. Rage boiled inside him. When Patricia returned home that night, Marcus was waiting. He sat in the darkened living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Where were you? He asked coldly. At the shelter, she lied, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. Marcus stood slowly, his eyes narrowing. Don't lie to me! I'm not, she insisted, but her pulse betrayed her. He stepped closer, towering over her. You think I don't know. You think I'm blind. I saw you, Patricia. I saw you with him. Her blood ran cold. Marcus's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You're mine, and if you ever try to leave me for him, I swear to God, I'll make sure neither of you have anything left. Patricia's heart pounded violently, but beneath the fear something else stirred, anger. For years she had bowed her head, endured his cruelty, but now Damian's love had lit a fire inside her, and she wasn't sure she could keep it contained much longer. Patricia lay awake that night, Marcus's threat echoing in her ears. Beside her, he slept soundly as though nothing had happened. But she knew the truth, the storm was coming. And across the city, Damian stared out at the skyline, unaware of the danger growing closer with each passing day. For Patricia, the chains were breaking, but breaking free would come at a cost. Patricia stood in front of the bathroom mirror, dabbing concealer over the faint bruise on her cheek. Her hand shook as she worked, the morning light unforgiving on her weary face. She hardly recognized herself anymore. The woman who used to dream of writing, of traveling, of living boldly, that woman felt like a ghost. And yet, Damian's voice echoed in her memory. You don't deserve this pain. You deserve freedom. She closed her eyes, pressing both palms against the cool porcelain sink. He was right. And for the first time she began to believe she could have it. But Marcus's threat still rang in her ears. If you ever try to leave me for him, I'll make sure neither of you have anything left. The words were chains, but her heart no longer wanted to wear them. Across the city, Damian leaned on his office window, looking down at the streets below. His company continued to thrive, but he barely noticed. Every thought, every beat of his heart belonged to Patricia. He had tried to fight it, tried to bury it, but the truth stood stubbornly in his chest. He loved her, completely, unconditionally, and he couldn't stand by while Marcus destroyed her spirit. He grabbed his phone and dialed. When Patricia answered, her voice was shaky. Patricia, he said firmly, come with me tonight. Just come. Don't think. Don't be afraid. Let me take you away, even if it's just for one night. There was a long silence. Then a whisper, Damian. If Marcus finds out, he already knows, Damian interrupted gently. He followed you, didn't he? Her breath hitched. Yes, then there's no point hiding anymore. Patricia, I love you, and I can't watch you suffer another day. Let me protect you, please. On the other end, he heard her soft sob. I'm so scared. I know, he said, his own throat tightening. But you won't be alone. Not ever again. That night, Patricia packed a small bag. Her hands trembled as she folded a blouse, tucked away a notebook, and slipped her wedding ring into the drawer. For years, the ring had felt like a shackle. Removing it felt like breathing for the first time. She crept down the stairs, heart pounding, praying Marcus was asleep. But when she reached the door, his voice cut through the darkness. Going somewhere? She froze. Marcus stepped out of the shadows, whiskey glass in hand, his eyes bloodshot and dangerous. Marcus, please, she began. Don't lie to me, he snarled. You think I don't know? You think I don't see the bag? You're leaving me for him. Patricia's voice shook, but she forced the words out. Yes, I'm leaving. For the first time, she didn't soften it, didn't try to soothe him. She spoke the truth. Marcus's face twisted with rage. The glass shattered against the wall. You ungrateful! He lunged forward, grabbing her arm so hard she cried out. You're mine, Patricia, mine. Before she could scream, headlights flashed through the window. A car pulled into the driveway. Damian. Marcus's grip tightened. Perfect, he growled. He's here. Damian burst through the door without knocking. His eyes landed instantly on Marcus's hand, clamped around Patricia's arm. His chest surged with fury. Let her go, Damian said, his voice low but commanding. Marcus sneered. So this is the rich boy who thinks he can steal my wife. She's not your wife anymore, Damian snapped. You lost that right the first time you laid a hand on her. Marcus shoved Patricia behind him, squaring off with Damian. You think money makes you a man? You think you can walk in here and take what's mine? This isn't about money, Damian growled. It's about love. Something you'll never understand. Patricia stood frozen, her heart racing. The two men glared at each other, the air thick with violence. Then Marcus swung. His fist connected with Damian's jaw, sending him staggering back. Patricia screamed, but Damian recovered quickly. Fueled by rage, he fought back. Years of pent-up anger at his father, at betrayal, at every injustice, exploded in him. He slammed Marcus against the wall, his fists flying. Patricia rushed forward. Stop, please! Damian froze, his chest heaving, Marcus groaning on the floor. He turned to Patricia, his eyes wild but softening when they met hers. Come with me, he pleaded, right now. Patricia's heart pounded. She looked at Marcus, broken but still spitting venom. If you walk out that door, Patricia, you'll regret it. I'll ruin you both. She turned back to Damian. In his eyes, she saw not just love, but safety, a future, a chance. And in that moment, she made her choice. She took Damian's hand. I'm ready. They ran out into the night. Patricia clutching her small bag, Damian holding her tightly as if he'd never let go. The rain began again, drenching them as they reached his car. Patricia looked back only once, seeing Marcus framed in the doorway, his rage echoing through the storm. But she didn't stop. She didn't falter. For the first time in years, she was free. In the weeks that followed, Patricia moved into a safe apartment Damian arranged for her. She filed for divorce, a painful and terrifying process, but one she faced with newfound courage. Marcus tried to fight, tried to intimidate her, but with legal support and Damian's unwavering presence, his power over her began to crumble. The road wasn't easy. Patricia battled guilt, nightmares, and fear of the future. But Damian was always there, holding her through the dark nights, reminding her she was stronger than she knew. "You don't have to heal alone," he told her one night as they sat on the balcony of her new place, the city lights glowing around them. "I'll be here for every step." Patricia leaned her head against his shoulder, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've never had that before. Someone who stays. I'm not my father," Damian whispered, his own pain surfacing. "I won't run away. I won't abandon you. You're my heart, Patricia, and I'll never let you go." She turned to him, cupping his face with trembling hands. "I believe you. For the first time, I believe in love again." Their kiss was slow, tender, no longer desperate but full of promise. The divorce was finalized. Marcus fought bitterly, but in the end, Patricia walked away with her freedom and the courage to reclaim her life. She began volunteering more, even speaking publicly about her experience, inspiring other women to break their chains. Damian watched her with pride, marveling at her strength. One evening, as they strolled hand in hand along the Hudson River, Damian stopped, pulling her close. "I used to believe love was a lie," he admitted, "that it was just a pretty story people told themselves before it all fell apart. But then I met you." Patricia's eyes softened. "And now? Now I know love is real, because it's you, it's us." She smiled through tears, pressing her forehead against his. "You saved me, Damian." "No," he whispered, kissing her gently. "You saved yourself. I just stood by the woman I love." As the sun dipped below the skyline, painting the river in hues of gold and crimson, Patricia slipped her hand into Damian's. For the first time in years, she didn't feel trapped. She didn't feel afraid. She felt alive. And with Damian by her side, she knew this wasn't just survival anymore. This was love. True, lasting, healing love. The kind of love that doesn't destroy but rebuilds. The kind of love both of them had been searching for all their lives. And this concludes the story of Damian and Patricia. Their story is a reminder that even through pain and darkness, love and courage can prevail. Say no to violence and abusive relationships. Everyone deserves respect, love, and safety. Thank you for listening to Vintage Mike Tales.